today we'll be seeing about the what do you say the topics of this. So we'll see what is VAS, why is VAS, and what is the primary job of VAS admin and other, and also we'll see what are the job opportunities of VAS website administrator and how it differs to the other its competitive products. Either you say WebLogic, Tomcat, or Apache, and WebLogic. So these three are your competitors. So we'll see so we may not since I think Kishore knows some of this because he's already working. So but we need to take it from the basic level because we have Silpa in here. So you need to have some patience sometimes, Kishore, because you may
Yeah, no,
feel
no,
that okay,
I
these are
totally
mistakes, but
see nowadays, I mean, even, I may get sleep, when I'm seeing, but it doesn't make like I'm working 8 years. It's all like, traditional. It's something new, I need to know.
yeah, okay, yeah. So let's jump into this. So
Uh-huh.
what is a three-tier architecture? So yeah, so what is three-tier architecture? Because this is the architecture which is being run from around 90s. So once the advent of you see the browsers, right, the web browser, people started accessing and people had a lot of resources to be accessed through internet. So around 1995, around when Java was introduced, based on the Java, right, the three-tier architecture was built. So the three-tier architecture is nothing but it's breaking your web application into multiple parts and maintaining them efficiently. So we'll see what is the first layer. The first layer is presentation layer. Presentation layer is nothing but the presentation part of your application, whether it may be a web application, it may be an enterprise application, it may be a desktop application. So the presentation layer is nothing but the layer which is accessed or interacted by the user. So whether you take around a gmail.com. So gmail.com, the user part, right, how the user interacts with Gmail. So he'll open his browser and he'll hit the URL and he's going to browse it. So the UI part, right, so when you click on a mail, the click action will be taken and the data will be retrieved from the database and it will be shown to that user, whichever email is requiring, or is if he's going to browse an email or is going to send an email. So that is the presentation layer. So that presentation layer part will always be taken care by the web server. So web server is a component. So I'll be discussing what is web server component. But so the presentation layer is nothing but the layer of your code which will be interacted directly with the user or the end user will be your presentation layer. So that's why you see this desktop icons here. So which because it signifies that we are an end user. So the second tier is your application server layer. So the application server layer is nothing but this is the place where your actual business logic resides. So suppose you have Gmail, right? So Gmail has a logic. So what is that logic? If he goes to inbox, what he should do? So it should pull up all the information which are residing in the inbox, and it should sort it on the latest mail, and it should also sort based on the unread, read, whether you have tagged it, whether you have made it into folder. All these things, right? This logic will be in the business logic. So the actual logic, because when you're using the presentation layer will be nothing but it will be the compilation of your actual business logic, because you can't expose your business logic, right? Because today the securities are very very tight. If you tell Microsoft, Google, they also get continuously hacked. So what they do is always there will be encapsulation. If you know, it's nothing but hiding your actual logic and making sure that only the required logic is seen by the user. So business logic tier is nothing but this is a place where your WebSphere WebLogic tier comes, and you actually whatever you write the Java code, right, you put the Java code in this containers and you host this data to the user through the form of presentation layer. So the application server is the heart of your three-tier architecture. So because this is the location where you have your what do you say, the actual Java code which you are going to interact with the user. The third layer is the data resource layer. So whenever you have any enterprise application, right, uh, this whatever I'm telling you, right, this will be applied for anything. If you write a Node.js, PHP, .NET, Java, right, always your programming language is not going to save any data. Means if you write a Java program, right, you're not going to save the user information, means how many users are logged in, because Gmail, right, there are around 50 crore of users in the Gmail. So that 50 crore information will not be saved in your Java application. So and there will be billions of emails and there will be a lot of connections. All these things, right, they need to be stored in a database, because always any programming interface, any programming language or any program, right, will not be saving any data. It will only be processing the data. So always if you want to have an enterprise application or any application which is going to interact with the data, we need to have a data tier. A data tier is nothing but it's an application layer where you'll have the actual database installed and you store the database in the form of tables, schema, all these things, and you retrieve that data from the actual application server. So you do some connection logic. So we'll have a, what you say in the web. Yes, Shilpa?
No, I was not talking actually.
Okay. Yeah, so I
Please go ahead.
yeah, you just I thought you interrupted. So yeah, so this is the layer
Sorry.
we are going to actually save the user data, whether it may be a username, password information. So if you take an example of Amazon, right? So if Amazon, until unless you log into your username and account, you're not going to book or order any item. So the username and password, the items you have ordered in the past 6 months or more than past 6 months, what have you added in your cart, what is your favorites, whether you have pinned it, all these things, right? These are information which is unique to the user and needs to be secured. So all this data, right, will always be stored in a database. So this is this data tier. So in a traditional 3-tier architecture, these three logics, right, the three tiers will be working in sync with the user, and they always needs to be up and running. They should be responding fastly, all these things, because it's not just you are building your application. Once you have an application, you should be able to scale that application, because when Facebook started, it was only 5 million people, means there were not even 50 lakh people using. Today there are around 180 crores, it's 1.8 billion people using. So your application should be easily be scalable. It should be resilient. Resilient means suddenly the server has crashed, but once the crash happens, your application should not completely get destroyed. So you should have a mechanism to easily restore it. So suppose your phone crashes, right? If your operating system is gone, your data is gone, but that should not be the case in your actual application. There should always be backup mechanism, failure mechanism, all these things in a place, so that if there is any uninterrupted issues happen, right, you should be in a position to restore the systems fast and start serving the traffic to the user. Suddenly there was some issue and half of your infrastructure got destroyed. So what you should be in a position, you should be in a position to restore your services as soon as possible. If you don't do that, you're going to lose your business or your data or anything, because if the users start facing that, okay, this website is not working and this website is not responsive, you stop doing business with that application. So if anything happens to your application layer, right, that is directly going to be hurting your business. So you should always make sure your systems are up and running. It's not just up and running, but it should be always fast to respond. So these three tiers are important, and the tiers which we will be discussing in our courses is the presentation layer and the business logic layer. So we'll need to, as a middleware administrator, as a web, or a WebSphere administrator, right, you should also take care of the web server part. So along with your WebSphere application, you'll also be working on your web server installation and configuration. So web server is not that complicated. It is a lot less complicated, and you'll not have much installation and configuration. But we also deal with this application, and we'll also configure this application. Okay.
Hey, Gautam, I have one question.
Yes.
So in presentation layer, what are we discussing here? Like, web server,
Yes.
what web server we are discussing in this course?
In this course, we'll be discussing IBM HTTP server.
IBM HTTP server. As a web server, we are.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
because, yeah, so I'll tell you, if you're learning IBM HTTP server, you'll automatically learning OHS and also Apache web server, because OHS and IHS, OHS is nothing but Oracle HTTP server, IHS is IBM HTTP server. These both HTTP servers, right, they are built on the open source Apache license. So what they did is they went to Apache. So Apache is open source, right? So they took all those open source binaries and they fixed some issues, and what they did is they added some packages so that it can be easily installed, because installing open source will be a little cumbersome, so it won't be that easy and user friendly, right? So what they did is they added some libraries, they fixed some security issues, some all these issues, and they bundled it. They bundled it as their own softwares, but still they are 100% based on your Apache server. So learning one instance will give you 99% of the information. So there may be small minor changes, but you will be acquiring the knowledge of the other two web servers also.
Okay.
Yeah. So Shilpa, you have any doubts on this? Okay, sorry. Yeah, Kishore, go continue.
No, Gautam.
Okay.
Yeah, in between in the presentation layer and business logic,
Yes.
are we discussing anything like load balancing concepts and
Yes, we'll build load balancing concepts. Yeah.
And one more thing, any DNS we discuss?
DNS is nothing, because once you have a DNS configured, right, that is not going, because DNS is not a big configuration. See, DNS, you have a DNS
I
server
mean, to get a
installed.
basic idea,
Yes,
to
yes,
get a
I'll be
basic
telling you that
idea.
there is no issue. I'll tell you everything architecture, because I worked on architecture. So as an
Yeah.
architect, so there is no issue. You can ask me architecture doubts also. I am ready to answer.
Okay. And when we go to like third tier data resource, you said Node.js. What is the Node.js
Node.js, I told you in
role?
application server layer, I told that Node.js.
Okay. What is that? I mean, because I'm pretty much want to know about Node.js also.
So Node.js is nothing
So,
but it's a server-side component. So you know PHP, right? What is
mm-hmm.
PHP? It's a very famous software, right? Today most of the websites are
Yeah.
written. So these are server-side operating systems. So whenever you're not having a requirement to run a complete, because WebSphere installation, configuration, buying the license, these are all very costly things, and it requires a lot of time and resources. But if you have a web application and you just need some server-side component, right, runtime component, and which is based on API, Node.js can be replaced. So today, if you see Flipkart and what you say, the Snapdeal, all Indian websites, right, they are all based on cloud applications, and they are never based on this architecture. They are not using
Okay.
application server. They are using
Uh,
server-side components, because the new startups, right, they need a huge agility. They want the services to be scaled up very soon, everything, right? If you are going to a cloud model and the latest models, right,
mhm.
this style is not going to be working anymore. That's why Node.js, PHP, Angular will come into picture. So it's nothing but it will
Okay.
also
So,
do the same work of application server, but it will not have this many features. It will have a lot less features, but whatever the features it will have, it will be executing it in a high speed.
okay, Gautam. So so and by end of this course, we can get a basic idea of Node.js also, right? So
No,
how
no, I
it
just
works and all.
took an example, but Node.js is a completely different concept.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but Node.js will not be required by, see, Node.js administrator will not be required. Node.js is only a developer, because Node.js, this will not be coming into a picture, and you'll never encounter it until unless you move out of to a startup you work. You'll not encounter Node.js
Okay.
environments.
So, okay. As a middleware admin, we don't.
No, we don't require. I took as an example because present the technology you people know, right? That's why I took that example. Don't confuse it.
Okay.
Yeah. Shilpa,
Okay.
you have any doubts?
I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, slowly. So I told, right, it's nothing but whatever your whatever you have logic, right, means I'll tell you a small example. You have your mobile application, right? You have an
Yes,
app, right? In that app, right, when
yes,
you
yes,
install that app, right, and install and open and you start browsing it, right, that is your presentation layer.
yes, yes.
So
Okay,
so you enter some value, and you enter some items, and you do add to cart. So that all that
yes,
layer will be happening on the presentation layer. And once you do add to
yes,
cart and you hit the button, right, what it will do is that
yes,
app will save the data, and it will send it to the application server. So application server will understand that, okay,
okay,
Shilpa has added these two items in the cart, and what it will do is it will take the data and it will update in the database, because your cart
okay,
information should be there all the session, because once you move from one page to one page, your cart whatever you have saved in the cart will not be lost, right, until unless you remove that from your cart. That will be staying in your cart as long as possible. So how it is staying is, it will be stored in the database, and it will be reflecting. So these three parts, right, will always be for the user. It will be as a single application, that this is my mobile application, this is working seamlessly. But in the background, right, always there will be multiple tires, and each guy will be taking something. So for example, you'll go to Amazon, and you'll just you'll search for something Xbox, and hit enter, and you'll get the list of items, right? So the list of items will be fetched from database, but the processing, right, that okay, this Shilpa has asked me Xbox, I should go to database and only find the information of database, and I should fetch it and send it, right? That part will be done by application server. Sorry. So application server, what it will do is, it will take the request from your client that, okay, she has asked me regarding Xbox. She'll create a query which will be understand by database, and she'll send to database SQL query that select Xbox all items and display to Shilpa.
sorry, Gautam, my internet connection went wrong. Now it's okay.
Okay, yeah. So so each part will be working its own. It will have its own task. So what it will do is, application server will understand your request. It will take that request to the database. It will ask, like, a user is requesting some information regarding Xbox. Can you give me? So it will take that, and it will take it, and it will give you that information. So that is the actual part of application server. Application server is the heart. So if you give an instruction, right, the person who is understanding that instruction is your application server. Only your application server will understand your instruction and will act according to your instruction. Okay, Shilpa.
Okay, Gautam.
Yeah, so I think it will not, you'll take couple of sessions to understand that. So right now try to understand what is the purpose of these guys, that's all. So yeah, you'll slowly understand, yeah, because you told you're new to it, so it will not take much time, but yeah, couple of sessions, yeah, you may feel new. Yeah, so the three-tier architecture, this is a representation from IBM. So all the IBM products, right? So IBM has each product in each layer. So it's just showing the products. So it's telling, okay, it is just showing that, okay, in each layer I have some IBM products, so you can use this product. So this is a client. The client is nothing but your end user. The HTTP server, right? This is your presentation layer part. So I told, right, we'll be discussing HTTP server. So your web server part is your WebSphere application server part, and the backend, right? The backend can be a DB2. You can also connect to SAP, and you can also connect to mainframes. So one of the reasons people use WebSphere application server is, so WebLogic, Apache cannot talk to mainframes. So only WebSphere can talk to mainframes. So still, if your banking applications are running in a mainframes, right? So only WebSphere can talk to the mainframes. So no other person can talk to mainframes, because mainframes, when you're talking, right, you need some particular interfaces. That interfaces, right, they are not provided to other persons. So that is the existing system. So it can be a normal Oracle database, or it can be an SAP application, or it can also be a mainframes application. So that can be your backend systems. And sometimes, right, if you don't want to talk to a database, but in turn you want to talk to one more Java application. So you got a request, but that request, right, that requested information, right, it is not with some database in the backend, but that is with some other Java application. So if you want to communicate from one Java application to other Java application, right, you need to send a message to Java. So that is called the messaging networks. So messaging networks is nothing but whenever in the background your current Java application, your Java application got a request, so it should process that request. To process that request, if it finds that, okay, this information is not with the database, but it's information with another application, then it comes to the messaging networks. So this is the messaging net. So right now understand that whenever two Java applications want to talk to each other, you can talk through messaging, and that is this part. So we'll discuss in detail in the futures. The service provider is nothing but whenever you want to add a third-party service, right? Whether you want to add a Oracle application, Oracle database, or MySQL database, or Microsoft database, right? There will be service providers. Means there will be some plugins or something you download. So if you want to add functionality into your Chrome browser, right? What you do? You go to extensions and you install an extension, right? The same way, whenever you want to add a feature to WebSphere, which is not built in, right? What you do is you get some configuration files, and you give that configuration file to WebSphere. Then WebSphere will understand that application. So these are called service providers. And there will also be another application called LDAP. So LDAP is nothing but it's a security mechanism. So whenever you have username and passwords, right? Username and passwords will be saved in one kind of database. That kind of database is called a LDAP application. So the normal username and passwords will not be saved in your traditional databases, which is Oracle database or Microsoft database. So for that kind of information to store, which is secure information, so there will be a type of database. That database is called LDAP application. Okay, Shilpa. So we'll discuss in detail again each concept, but just remember that LDAP is nothing but it's an application to just to store username passwords of the current application. Okay.
Okay, we can we picture this like for example of an Gmail, like I'm a
Gmail
client using Gmail here.
Yeah, sure.
Edge component, and what do you mean by IBM HTTP server? Is
Yeah,
it like an URL to reach the application server?
yes, it's the first point of the application server reaching. So whenever you give an application, right, it will be hosted in the web server first. So the request will come to web server, then web server will send that request to the app server. So why we need web server, I will tell you in detail in the future, but whenever you hit the URL, right, your gmail.com, that will come directly to the web server.
Yeah, like can you explain this
in terms of Gmail?
for Gmail? Yeah, in terms of Gmail. Yes, Gautam.
Okay, so yeah.
So,
I'll tell you.
so that I can have a clear picture.
Sure. Anyhow, I was going to explain in the next slide itself. That was the slide. Next slide. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me draw some components. So these are our 3 tiers. Oh, the font is huge. Yeah.
Okay. Are you explaining here web means
No, I'll
in
just
those
explain.
3 layers? Which
Yeah,
one will come,
yeah,
Gautam? It's presentation layer.
yeah. So the presentation layer. This is the presentation layer.
Okay.
So this is you are the user. So you just hit a gmail.com.
Okay.
So once you hit a gmail.com, right? So there will be an external
Yeah.
DNS in the internet. So because if I hit gmail.com, right, who is going to tell me that you
Yeah.
should go to a data center which is in America, which is because everyone will host their data in the data center, and Gmail has data centers worldwide. And how my browser is going to know that okay, there is a data center in Mumbai where Gmail is hosted, go to there, because there will be an external DNS in the internet is nothing but it's a open database. So internet has a DNS
Okay.
application. So because the moment you hit something, right, how it is directly going to there, because there will be a
Okay.
DNS in the internet which is domain name resolution. So domain name resolution
Okay.
is nothing but this gmail.com in turn will be having a backgroundly a IP address, something called some IP address it will have. So that IP address will have a
Okay.
specific location. So once you hit gmail.com, it will be resolved into IP address, and that IP address will be located, because when you say LAN, WAN, or every network, right, each IP address will have a specific
Okay.
destination. So it's a lot of huge concept, but understand that once you hit a gmail.com, it will be converted to IP address. In the IP address, so DNS is nothing but it's also a kind of your phone book. Your phone book will have your name and phone number, right? The same way DNS is also a type
Yes.
of database where each IP address will also have a specific location where it is in the world. So it will directly send that to the
Okay.
my data center. So this will be my starting point. So that request directly comes from internet DNS to this place where my
Okay.
data center. It will directly come to this data center.
Okay.
Inside my data center,
Okay.
if I have multiple applications, gmail.com, googledrive.com, based on that, it will direct to the specific web server. So once the request comes to
Okay.
this web server will directly understand the user that okay, this guy is hitting me, so he's requesting the gmail.com login page, because every application, right, every website or everything will have a default home page, because if you
Okay.
if you hit Gmail, right, it will not go directly to inbox, right, it will
Yes.
directly go to the
It will,
home location.
homepage.
Yeah, if you're signed in, it will go to home page. If you're not signed in, it will always go to login page. So
Yes.
always a web server will have a default index.html page. So that page
Okay.
only will be loading. So it will directly
Okay.
serve the user the home page. So
Login page. Yeah.
yeah, login. It's either login page. If you're logged in, it will serve the home page. So that page will be sent. So this is the
Okay.
first interaction between you and the user. So web server is nothing but it will host the HTML content.
Okay.
So always, right, whenever you're okay, if you have a browser, right, your browser, right,
Yeah.
if your internet browser, right, it will only understand
Yeah.
HTML content. It will not understand
Yeah.
Java. It will not understand C, anything. Whenever you hit anything from the internet, right, it is going to send the request in terms of HTTP request. HTTP request is nothing but hypertext transfer protocol, right? So
Yes.
yeah, so hypertext transfer protocol is nothing but this protocol will only understand the HTTP data. So it will send a HTTP request, and HTTP request can only be understood in the world by web server. That is why we have web server layer, because application server will have that capability, but we don't use it because there will be certain conditions. It's not like application server will not understand, but we have a lot of security consideration, all those, because we don't want your application directly hitting here. So what we do is, the web servers are the only persons who will understand the HTTP data. So moment you hit, you are going to send a request in HTTP request. So your HTTP request from the user will go to web server. Web server will understand the HTTP because it's built into understand only HTTP. If you send a web server Java request, it will not understand. So it will understand it's a valid request, and it will serve the default page. So this is your first interaction. After this interaction, if you are going to some page called okay, this is already home page. Okay, let me open another thing. Something called Yahoo. So if I press it, it is going to this page, right? So this is your page. So this page will be loaded from your web server. So once you give any sign-in information, right, from there it will go, that request will come from there to here, because your web server will only serve the static content. So static content is nothing but, so there will be two type of content, Shilpa. So there will be, when in the internet, right, there will be two type of contents. One is static content and the other one is dynamic content. So static content is nothing but, you have a lot of blocks, right? There will be so many blocks. So if you go, this is a blog. This is a blog. So this blog is a this will not have any runtime information. But when you go to something called what you say, a Gmail, not even Gmail, right? There will be a lot of information where it is dynamic. Means if you give the location, right? If you tell I am Hyderabad, right? So there will be some processing happen, and the Hyderabad location will come. If you go to Book My Show, if you go to Book My Show and give the location of Hyderabad, the data will be changing, right? So a dynamic content is nothing but based off your user input. If the data keeps changing, right, that is called a dynamic content. But if you go blog, right, any blogs. So this is a blog. Okay, so let me go to this blog, WebLogic blog. This is some blog. So in this blog, right, there will not be any dynamic content. I can only see data. So this is something data. So I continuously see this data. I can't do anything with data, right? I can't give any input. I can't give something called username, password. It will not process, or I can't add something. So this is called a static content. Static content is nothing but it will only serve the data, and we can't do any operations on the data. So this is a static content, right? All the blocks. So so there will be two type of content in the internet. One is static content, dynamic content. A web server can only serve static content, means it will have something stored in HTML files. You know HTML, right? They'll simply write some small tags and they'll save it. So a web server can only serve static content. So once the person starts giving username and password, right, the web server will understand that, okay, this is something called dynamic content, and we'll tell web server that if there is any dynamic request, please send the request to the WebSphere
application server.
Yeah, so the request will come to that logic setup we'll discuss, but just understand that whenever there is a dynamic request to web server, it will send to the application server. So application server will understand that, it will take the username and password, it will go to the LDAP database. I told that there is a special database for username passwords. It will be here. It will go to that, it will validate that request, and it will authenticate whether it's correct or it is wrong. See, again the processing is happening on the application server. The only person who will process the request is application server. So once it is authenticated, he'll go to the page. Again web server will know that, okay, home location of a logged in is again the login location. It will send that, it will serve the same data. Once the user comes here, and he'll request for the sent items. So sent items is nothing but again it is stored in the database. So again the request will come from here, then it will come to here, then it will come to database, and that specific user in his sent items, whatever the data is there, it will be pulled and sent back to the user directly from the each layer. So this is an actual thing happens every time. Whenever you do something request, this is the what you say, the complete life cycle of an application. This is still not the complete life cycle. There are still small components, but this is the main components. So whenever you are going to talk or work in an environment, you need to know what is a database tier, means what are the databases I have, what is my application, how many applicants are there, what is my web server layer, all these things. Now you understood what WebSphere is, what like little?
Yes, little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, still again I'll tell you this, but right now try to understand that there will be three tiers. The tiers is web server tier is, so web server I think now you understand why we need web server, because web server is the only person who will understand a browser language. Browser can only communicate in one
Okay.
language, which is HTTP language. So that language will be understood by a web server.
Okay.
That's why we have this guy.
Okay.
And there is no other component still invented to replace web servers. There are lot of things invented for the presentation, the actual business tier layer, WebSphere, WebLogic, again PHP came, something came, but web servers will stay like that, because until unless my browser will start understanding a different language, web server can't be replaced. So again, this is something called a small detailed thing. So what is a WebSphere? WebSphere is nothing but which will an application server exposes the business logic to the client applications through various protocols, possibly including HTTP. So we were discussing till now HTTP, right? So web server can't, it will understand the request which is coming from the web server, which is HTTP request. Web server again, whenever it is responding also, it will respond by HTTP, right? So whenever the web server is requesting for the dynamic content to the app server, it will send the request again in the HTTP protocol only. So web server, app server can understand HTTP protocol, not only HTTP, but it will understand various other protocols also. So most of the times people interact with web applications. That's why application server, they tell that it will expose the business logic in terms of HTTP content, but not only HTTP content, it can also serve in IOP, RPC, JMS, all these type of protocols are there through which application server can expose its business logic. I told you, right, that sometimes in the backend, right, one Java application will talk to other Java application. So this time the request will not be coming in the HTTP, it will be coming in the message format, right? I just now told you, when two Java applications want to talk to each other, it will send one SMS, one message, right? So application server can also take a request through a message, and also it will respond through message itself. So application server has a lot of capabilities or lot of features through which it can take a request. It's not only through the HTTP request. Okay. So right now try to understand that. We'll start elaborating that logic. Okay. That a web server can understand multiple protocols and it can serve traffic in different ways. So what are the market products? So IBM WebSphere Application Server is a product from IBM. Oracle WebLogic is from Oracle. Apache Tomcat is an open source, and JBoss is from Red Hat. Red Hat is an open source company, so it is from the Red Hat. So these four are the products right now, and the most famous products will be the WebSphere Application Server and the WebLogic. These two will not be used much because they don't have that many features, and they are not that resilient. Resilient is nothing but they can't save you from crashes, or they'll not save you from uninterrupted issues. So these both are very resilient, and they can take a lot of beating. So there is a lot of processing also. WebSphere Application Server and Oracle WebLogic can still withstand that request. So that's why most of the people, most of the openings also will be on WebSphere or WebLogic. So we'll see what is WebSphere now. So right now we know what is application server, right? So we'll see what is WebSphere. So WebSphere is a brand. So WebSphere is nothing but it is it's a brand inside the IBM. This brand is nothing but this brand will have all the applications which are related to the middleware components. So middleware components can be messaging components, they can be integration components, they may be presentation components, they may be actual business tier applications. So WebSphere Application Server is a actual, what you say, a business tier application. So where it will what you say, it will respond to the user's request, right? There are other types of products inside WebSphere. There are around 100 products in the WebSphere, but the most important products in all the WebSphere is WebSphere Application Server. So this is the base component for a lot of other servers, other applications also. So there is a advantage by learning WebSphere, because WebSphere, right, there may be openings regarding WebSphere portal, WebSphere process server, WebSphere commerce. There are a lot of products which are built on top of WebSphere Application Server. So an example is WebSphere Commerce. WebSphere Commerce is a software through which you can easily build e-commerce applications. E-commerce is nothing but you can build application with cart details and all the, what you say, you can add items into your application. It's nothing but it's a e-commerce application. So WebSphere Commerce is a application. It's an application based on WebSphere application server where you can easily build e-commerce applications. So there are a lot of applications which require WebSphere application server admins. So learning WebSphere is has that advantage that it's not only WebSphere application server opening, but you can also apply to other openings also, which is a like a huge advantage from my perspective. And once you go to WebSphere, right, there will be a lot of other components you can start learning on top of WebSphere application server, and you can become a very important resource in your team, like WebSphere MQ, WebSphere IIB, WebSphere Data Power. There are all these components which all again are interrelated with WebSphere. WAS. So once you understand WAS, right, you'll be understanding most of your application architecture completely, because every person should come to WebSphere and go from WebSphere. So there will not be any component. So I can tell you that WebSphere application server is a pretty important application in any organization. So once you understand the WebSphere, it's the components which are front to it and back to it, right? The front applications are web servers, the back end are databases, and there will be other components also. So once you get a knowledge of WebSphere a couple of years, right? Right now, WebSphere administrators have the very good opportunity to jump to the DevOps also. So if you can work for 3 to 4 years or 2-3 years in WebSphere, right, you have a very good eligibility to move to DevOps also. So which is again just starting now. You have any doubts in this, Shilpa, Kishore?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So WebSphere versions. So what are the versions released? So the latest current version is version 9. Version 9 is in June 2016. So people have not yet adapted it because the most famous version is WebSphere version 7.0. Organizations like this a lot. So a lot of organizations still use 7.0. But right now most of the organizations are moved or mostly in the process of moving to 8.5.5. So 8.0 was a huge failure or a huge flop for IBM. So 8.0 IBM has discontinued it, and 8.5 was also released after 8.0. This was hit, but since IBM thought, okay, we can still add more features, so 8.5.5 was released. So if you can see, right, it was released within the shorter period of time. So 8.5.5 is the most used application currently in the market after 7.0. So in the interview, right, they may be asking you regarding only these two versions, not any other version. So 8.5.5 and 7.0. And whenever IBM releases any version, right, so they give you a contract that they are going to support that application for 5 years. Support is nothing but if you face an issue in the WebSphere, right, you can raise a ticket to IBM and get that issue resolved by paying some yearly maintenance fees. So some people will fear that, okay, if I come to this version, if next version will come, IBM will leave me back. No, IBM is not going to alien you. So IBM, by contract, whenever you buy a software by IBM, so IBM is going to give you a 5-year support for you. And sometimes there will be also extended life cycle also. That, okay, if more people are using, right, that what they'll do is they'll extend that support and they'll ask you, you can buy for 2 more years support and we will give you. That is called extended support. So, and whenever a product is released, right, end of support will not be released. So end of support will be released whenever they feel it is version. So version 7.0 is still not given end of life. See, normally they give 5 years, right? So, but they give a lot. See, if you see 2016, right, the support was given till 2013. So if you see 6.0, it was given 6 years. So 7.0, it's already what you say 7 years, right? So it's still, they have not released the end of support. So still it is being supported. So you cannot worry, or you don't need to worry that, okay, if I take some if I take the version of 9.0 or 8.5.5, you don't need to worry, because you are paying a huge sum of money to IBM. So IBM is going to assure you that I'm going to support you for a very long time, until unless you are going to upgrade. Because organizations, whenever they are setting a new environment, right, they'll set up the environment and they'll cool down for 2 more years and they'll start again upgrading all the softwares. So you don't need to worry regarding that. And each version, right, they'll also have all this Java APIs. So Java double is nothing but your complete Java servlets, JSPs, EJB. These are all nothing but these are all Java components. So whenever new Java version is released, right, these versions also get upgraded. So EJB is nothing but whenever you write EJB application, JSP, you know, Java server pages, servlets, you know. So these are also have specification. Whenever they increase the version, they'll have some features added. So from 2011, there is no update to servlets. there is no update to JSP, there is no update to JSF, EJBs, there is no update, because these are all pretty standardized now. So most of the versions, most of them are not being upgraded now from around, see if you're from 7 or 8 years, right? They are not being updated because they are already standardized and they have all the features which are required. So they don't be upgraded. But see, if you see, whenever you have a version of a new WebSphere, right? IBM also releases a update to that version. So if you want Java 7, right? WebSphere 7.0 cannot support Java 7. You need to upgrade your WebSphere to version 8.5 if you want Java 7 to be Java 7 application you want to use it. So based on your requirement, you can select it. But whenever you are going to install a new in your environment, right? IBM will ask you to use the latest version itself. They'll not recommend you to use 7.0, or they'll not even try to sell you. They'll tell you, if I sell 7.0, right? You're already, yeah. Just tell me.
Gautam, what is the latest version? Is it 9.0?
9.0. It is released in 2016, but until unless 1-2 years, no one is going to touch that version.
Okay, so but latest, so we can't call as 8.5 as 9, right?
No, we can't call it because 9.0 has some features. Yeah. 8.5.5 is the most standardized, and there is a very little difference between 8.5.5 and 9.0. The only thing is this is cloud ready, so they have added some features where it can be installed on the cloud. That's all. Other than that, they didn't add any features.
So okay, 8.5.5 is on 2013 June, and the 9 is on 16.
Yes.
So in the okay.
So it will be
for the 3 years. It's only one release,
yeah.
And okay.
Yeah. So I think every 3-4 years they'll do a release. So I think by minimum around 2022, I think.
You know what? Why I ask you?
Yeah.
Yeah. In WebLogic, if you see 10.3 any point, it is called at 11G. So I just want to make sure, like, you know,
okay,
these things will be asked in interview. So
yeah, versioning in WebSphere is very easy. 7.0, 8.5, easy versions.
Okay.
Yeah. Shilpa, I think versioning is not that you'll not understand, but just understand that whenever you update an app, right, you get new features the same way. You keep getting new WebSphere versions,
okay.
They'll keep getting new advanced features. That's all. So why you upgrade? Okay. Because your single intention is to upgrade your Java and upgrade your WebSphere, so that in Java there may be, if Java new comes, right, there'll be a lot of features added. So you'll upgrade your WebSphere, and also in the WebSphere administration also they'll add new features. So you'll upgrade so that you can update new features, and also security will be enhanced a lot in between each versions.
Okay.
So what is JVM?
Gautam,
yes.
Gautam, and 8.5.5 Java 7 version only support, right? You said.
Yes.
But you know, in the lower versions,
6 is also supported for the 8.5. And I'll tell you, there are some features to 8.5. From 8.0, right, IBM, from 8.5, right, what IBM did is, you can use you can change the version we are using for your Java. Means your WebSphere has a current, if your WebLogic, your WebSphere, right, currently it is using 7, right? Right now Java 8 came, right? You can directly use Java 8. You can install Java 8 and you can start using. But before 7.0, right, that feature was not there. Whatever the Java was provided along with WebSphere, you should only use that. But from 8.5, right, IBM added some functionality through which you can only update your Java version.
Okay, so I mean, for 8.5.5, whatever the latest Java version, we can use it.
We can use
even
it.
The lower version also work, but
only till 6 it can go. It can't go beyond 6.
Okay. Okay.
It can go beyond 6, but not beyond 6. Why? But already Oracle has told that Java 1.6 is being discontinued. So people may start upgrading to Java 7 also. So there may be so many projects coming now in so many companies where to upgrade your Java to update to latest version. So when you want to update your Java, what they need to do, they need to update all the Java code. Developers will start updating their Java code, and they'll start testing with Java 7. So if they get any issues, they'll fix it, and they'll give that latest information to you. Again, you need to deploy. So there are so many projects going on that right now to upgrade Java in organizations. So what is JVM? So Shilpa, so I told WebSphere application server, right? So what WebSphere application server will have is, it will have a JVM. That's all. That is the most important component within the WebSphere. Because everything will have some component, okay, right? Yeah, if you have some what you say, Gmail, right, it will have one component to interact. So if you have something, a game, right, game will have some game engine to run the game. So the same way, the main engine which is inside your WebSphere is your Java virtual machine. That is the person that is the person which is going to be installed in your WebSphere application server. This is the heart of the WebSphere application server. Yeah.
So app server has JVM, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So along with JVM, there will also be other management components. Management components is nothing but how to manage this Java virtual machine easily. So there will be a lot of management features and management softwares also installed. But the heart of which the most important is Java virtual machine. So we know Java is a programming language, and Java virtual machine is nothing but it is the interface through which you execute Java applications. Because if you write Java application, what you'll do, you'll go to command prompt, you'll say Java C space Java program, right? Then you'll compile that Java. Then again you'll do Java P and you'll give Java program .java. So whenever you write a Java class, it will be Java C will compile it to .class file, and that .class file can be executed. So I'll tell you again in detail to you, but understand that, okay. Java virtual machine is a person who is going to execute your Java programs. That may be a huge Java program, it may be a small Java program, nothing, there is no difference. So Java virtual machine is an application. So you can see Java applications live in here. So whatever Java applications, your enterprise applications write, your developers will write, you will get that Java application and you will put it inside this virtual machine and you will run that application, which is in a simple layman terms, that nothing. WebSphere application server will have JVM, and whatever your developers will write Java code, you'll get it and you'll put it inside virtual machine and you'll start WebSphere and it will start working in a simple terms. So your Java application is there. Inside Java application there will be programming interface. Programming interface nothing but it is the API through which it will interact with the hardware, other environments, or the backend database, everything. So if you want your Java program to start talking to other people, right, you should have a interface, right? That is this interface, Java programming interface. Interface is nothing but it's a medium. If you want to talk to some other persons, what you'll do, you will start talking with your mouth with specific language. You can't understand Chinese, right? So you'll only talk in a certain language, certain syntax, which is your grammar of your language. So the same way, when you want a Java application to talk to an external world, there will be a certain programming interface and there will be a set of instructions. If in that way only, I can give an instruction to Java application which is inside JVM and I can get some results through that. So this is the interface. And this is your system control. System control is nothing but this is the translation between your Java and your native operating system. So when I want to talk to this interface, right, I told you that I need specific language and syntax, right? So that language and syntax, right, that the translation will be happening here. So when I tell you, right, okay, we both know English, we can talk, but in enterprise application, right, there will be a huge number of people. There will be people who use Chinese, Japanese, everything, and there will be different operating systems also. Windows operating system, Linux operating system, mainframes operating system, Solaris, all these things. So Java is a platform independent. Everyone know, means platform Java can be installed on any operating system, right? It's not like, okay, I can only install on Windows, right? So this is the person who will translate that specific operating system instructions to your Java understandable language. Because one company will think, okay, I'll install mainframes because mainframes will give me a lot of security, and some person will think, I don't want security, I'll go to Linux freeware, I'll download a Linux from internet freely and I'll install. So it's up to your requirement. So this is a system control program. This is a person who will translate that native. Native is nothing but local operating system to your Java. Okay. So in a simple terms, your WebSphere application server will contain a Java virtual machine, and you are going to install your Java application inside this. All these things are taken care by JVM. So you are not going to set up anything. Programming interface, everything, this is already written by the Oracle and it is provided to you by default. So you don't need to do any huge programming things. What our task is, we'll get our Java application and deploy it. I'm just telling you what happens in the background. Okay. Shilpa, you got something? I don't expect everything, but some idea?
Yes, Gautam.
Yeah. So what are the type of Java programs you will put in your WebSphere? There may be 3 applications. One will be your web application. Web application is nothing but that is an application which is accessed from a browser. So application that's accessed with a browser. So so we'll come slowly. We'll start seeing a lot of naming conventions. So once you start using these naming conventions, right? People think that okay, this guy knows something. So we can't tell that if I have some internet application, some browser. So we should not stop. We should stop using this language, and we should start using this standardized language of a what do you say, as a WebSphere administrator. So WebSphere administrator, what is a web application? Web application is nothing but an application which is installed inside JVM, but that is accessed through a browser. That is called a web application. Web, web is nothing but a website application. So web application. So this typically consists of HTML and JPG. I told, right, by default, if you're talking to a browser, you'll have HTML. Once HTML in the backend, you'll have servlets, and these servlets will have JSPs. So JSPs and servlets are the Java programs which will understand HTML. I told you, right, when a web browser will send a request in a HTTP format, right, which is an HTTP protocol. So servlets are the persons who can understand this guy's meaning. So servlets and JSPs are the people who are going to understand the HTML content, and it is a way to create a dynamic web page. So the transformation from WebSphere to the web server to app server, right? These persons will take it and they'll process it. Servlets have that capability in the Java. And there is another called EJB application. EJB application is nothing but it's a more sophisticated application. So if you are having a static or a sample page, right? If you are having a simple application, you can go with a web application. But once you have a application which is a business application, whether you take a Flipkart.com or Amazon.com, so your web application, right? Typically, your Gmail can if your Gmail can happily work in web application, because your Gmail is not doing any dynamic content, right? Everything is static. I'm asking send items list. I'm getting list of send items, but I'm not doing any transactions on it, right? So your Gmail is a typical web application, but when you come to your Flipkart, all these things, right? They'll come to a EJB application. Why EJB means when you want to buy an item in the Amazon, right? What happens? So you'll log into your application. Okay, once you log in, you start adding that items to the cart. Once you go to the cart, you'll do checkout. During the checkout, there may be multiple steps. Once you select your address, select your address, you'll select the type of shipping. You want it a prime or you want a normal. Then you select your credit card. All these things. This step-by-step process is called a transaction. So the difference between a normal request and a transaction is a normal request will go directly to the application. It will fetch some specific information, but a transaction, right, it will have multiple steps to be completed from one request. So if I want to buy an item on Amazon, what I should do? I should go to that, I should add to cart, all the steps, right? So whenever there are multiple steps involved in a single request, then that request is called a transaction. So in EJB applications have transaction capabilities. So these transaction capabilities are not only for completing a transaction, but for rolling back also. So suppose you added that application in the cart. So suppose Amazon had 100 items for Xbox. So once you add one Xbox to cart, right? So what Amazon should do is, in the real time, Amazon will decrease that 100 to 99. Because if it's still 100, right, if someone will buy it, right, then they'll get an error that sorry, there is no stock, because Amazon don't want to give that silly what do you say, messages to you. If it is not there, Amazon will remove that. It will tell that it is out of stock. So for that logic to happen, whenever you buy some item in the real time, it should go and decrease one item in the database, that okay, 100 products became 99. Then next it should go to multiple places and it should complete the transaction. At any point of time, if you are canceling that request, the EJB application will know that okay, the user has declined the transaction at the time of credit card payment, and it will go back to that database and tell that okay, that guy has cancelled his request. Can you please update back your 100? So a transaction will also have rollback capabilities. Rollback is nothing but I'm rolling back all my things, and during that rolling back, I'll do all the I'll get to the state where it was previously. So previously the state was 100, and now I'll replace that previous state. So that all those advanced capabilities will be with the EJB application. So EJB application is nothing but they have transactional capabilities where they can compile multiple steps within a single request. You understood that, Shilpa?
Yes. Can you please repeat that web application like servlets and JSPs?
Okay. So
like in one line.
Yeah, servlet is a application which will understand the HTML content and it will execute that request on us. So I told that give me Gmail homepage. Web server will understand only HTML pages and it will understand. Other than web applications, what you can have is you can have JSPs. You can have JSPs also on the internet. So JSPs can be loaded in your web server, and that web server and that request can be understood by JSP. So your HTML content can be understood by servlets and JSPs. So instead of you directly putting
Okay.
.html, right? See, having .html is very old. No, you cannot see anywhere in the HTML, right? Everything will be something in a. Let me go to Flipkart. So if you go to Flipkart, still people don't use .html. Right? .html, if you see, then that is a very, very, very basic application. You never see .html at the ending, right? So you may see a PHP website, but you don't see HTML page, right? You'll not load it in this way, right? So what
Yes.
is, so
Yes.
Java has created some capabilities in JSPs and servlets. What they do is they have the capability to serve HTML content. So that is why we use JSPs and servlets. Because still using plain old HTML is very, very unsecure, because they'll simply hack your web application within seconds if you're using HTML, because they'll not have security everything. So servlets and JSPs are the people who will understand web content, HTML content, and they are going to respond a dynamic request also. That is why servlets and JSPs are used. Okay.
Okay.
So these are the persons who will understand HTML content. It's a single line. So I think slowly go through these small lines after I told, right? So it will be easier for you. So what is servlet? So you'll understand single you. But it's a if I tell you, it's nothing but it's a logic which will access the data and it will format the data and it will reply it, which is that request. It will understand a HTML request also. Pojo is nothing but a plain old Java object. Plain old Java object is nothing but, see, if you have written a small Java application by yourself and you want that to be deployed, you can deploy it in a WebSphere, which is single Java program, small Java program. But this is not at all used in enterprises. Enterprises only use web and EJB application. Pojo is only to help people, but Pojo no one uses and no one is required on it. Okay. Got it, Shilpa? It's nothing but a small Java program. It's a simple Java program,
Okay.
which is a one-page Java program. You can write Hello World program also and put it in WebSphere. That's all. That's simple. That's all.
Okay.
But we are not going to use a costly application and just deploy Hello World, right? So no one will use it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, what is this Pojo? This is the first time I'm hearing about that.
plain old Java project. See, if you write a public static void main, print
Okay.
hello world and end that is a Pojo application, right? It's a small Java program, plain old Java object.
Okay.
You have some Java application, you have you are not compiling ERs, everything, still you want to deploy it sometimes, var files all, so that time you want to use it. So Shilpa, you are back.
Object is nothing but an instance of the program.
Yeah, that's all.
I
Yeah,
know what
instance
is-
of the class.
I know a Java program.
Yeah, object is nothing but instance of a
understanding
class,
the
right?
definitions little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so Java object is nothing but an instance of a class. That class will be your main class. Inside that you'll write small print program, that will be your plain old Java object. It's a single object. Yeah. So WebSphere application server, right? So we talked what is JVM, right? I told, right, you are going to get the Java application and deploy it, and the system control program is will understand the request from the web server or database and it will request, right? But when you are using a enterprise application means you'll have a contract that, okay, if okay, so we'll take suppose we'll take an example of a SBI bank. SBI bank is what you say is maintained by TCS. So when you are writing a contract with a third party, right, what you'll write is, the most important is SLA. SLA is nothing but service level agreement. So TCS will promise you that 99.95% of the time your SBI website will be up and running, and that is my guarantee. If it is not there, you can find me. So whenever someone is giving a contract to Infosys, TCS, anything, right, the first line will be, what is the SLA you are going to provide me? You die, I don't know. I don't care what are you doing, but you should make sure that my website is 99.9% up and running. So that is a level of agreement you do. So to maintain that high standards, right, WebSphere, right, to maintain that high standards, Java Virtualization will require a lot of administration capabilities. Administration means failover capabilities, adding new Java servers, having multiple Java JVMs working to each other, all these things, right, to all these things, to add these capabilities, right, WebSphere will have a framework. That framework is nothing but it will provide features for a WebSphere JVM to what you say, to scalably or to run what you say very in a highly available format. So both of these components mixed, you call it WebSphere application server. WebSphere application server, I told the heart is JVM. To make sure that heart is working efficiently all the way, we have a lot of other components to make sure that the heart is beating or working efficiently always. So these are all the other components. So as a WebSphere administrator, you will be handling all these tasks. You will make sure that this Java is working fine. So you will not, your see, Java virtual machine will be installed everything, and installing Java application is just a 5-minute task as an administrator. But to make sure your Java application is up and running always, to maintain your SLA, to maintain your application always speed, because if you have an application up and running always 99.9% and it is slowly responding, then again it's useless, right? So again you should make sure that your application is responding fast. So all these features to enable, right, that will be done by as an administrator from your end. Your part is that part. Okay, your part is making sure that adding all the configurations, doing setups, everything, and making sure that your application server is 99.9% available, it's up and running, it is fast, it is responsive, everything. So all those capabilities will be provided by the IBM WebSphere application server administrator, and he'll be configuring all these settings. Okay. Fine with this? Shilpa, Kishore, any doubts in this slide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is okay, Gautam.
Yeah, because what we are going to discuss in this whole course is each and every feature to make sure our Java to run efficiently. That's all. Because I know Java virtual machine, I'll install Java. If I install Java, I'll get Java virtual machine. If you install Java in your local system also, you'll get JVM. But if I want the JVM to efficiently run, to take hundreds of thousands of requests and not crash, right? You need WebSphere application server. That's all. So we'll see what is the primary job of asset admin. Now we know what is WebSphere and what are these, right? So I'll tell you. Right now I told couple of primary, already couple of what do you say, your jobs administration. So what you'll do is you'll make sure all applications are up and running. So in this couple of things, maybe L2, L3, L4. So whenever you are a WebSphere administrator, right, you'll be designated with a level. So the default level when you join as WebSphere is you'll get a level 2. So after that you get level 3, after that you get level 4. Level 4 is nothing but an architect. So they get this position when they are 12 years and they'll be setting up the architectures. But whenever you join, right, you'll become L2. L2 most of the time what they do is they install, they configure, and they try to start and up and running. But sometimes, right, L2 will not have enough what is troubleshooting skills, so that part may go to the L3. But as an L2 administrator, which is your first position in your WebSphere, what do you say, your job profile, right? It will be to install the applications, start the application, set up the configuration. So not much will be expected beyond this. Once you go to L3, which is around 4+ years or 5 years experience, they'll start asking you to troubleshoot. Troubleshoot is nothing but something got crashed or something got went down or something is not working. They'll start asking you to troubleshoot it. So you'll have troubleshooting techniques in WebSphere, and you should use those techniques to see what's happening. Okay. And L4 is nothing but you'll be designing the WebSphere architecture. You'll tell, okay, based on the Java application, you'll tell, okay, we need 5 servers, we need 20 GB RAM, we need this many application servers, we need this many softwares. You'll start deciding what we require. You'll stop working on installing, configuring, troubleshooting, because you'll be in a level to tell based on the requirement of a user. Will tell, okay, this is a, so you'll become to a level you can authoritate that, okay, you need this much, go and install. So that will be a level 4 position. Okay. And you should also have some knowledge on ITIL. ITIL is nothing but it's a framework to maintain what do you say, any IT organization. So if you want an IT organization to be working in a sync and on specific terms and conditions, right? This is nothing but the terms and conditions how to run a IT organization. So ITIL is nothing but it's a framework through which you can efficiently manage a software project. So you should have little knowledge, not much knowledge. You should know what is a change ticket, what is a problem ticket, what is a incident, and what are the steps you do. So I'll be telling you that in some time in any of the session, but you should have a little knowledge on ITIL. So you should also know, and the fifth one is you should be able to upgrade the software. When the version 7 came, right? And if you want to upgrade to version 8.0 and if you want to upgrade to 8.5.5, you should know how to do that. And also in between the major versions, right, there will be minor versions also released. Minor version is nothing but 8.5.5.0 will be released first. That will be the base version. After the base version, you will get a 8.5.5.1, 5.5.2. So you should also know the knowledge of doing a minor version upgrade, also a major version upgrade. So a minor version upgrade is always called patching. A major version is called upgrade. So upgrade only, that word is used whenever you are changing from one major to version to one other major version. Major version is which will have the first number changing 7.000 to 8.00 like that. If you are doing a small update, right, that is called patching. So you should have good knowledge on new installations. New installation is nothing but when you're installing it, it's the first time on a server. And as part of your, just give me a second, guys. I need to set up this power. Battery. It's switch on battery. Yeah. So you should also see, as part of your middleware, right? I told you when you discuss about WebSphere, you need to start interacting with all the teams. You need to interact with the OS team, the DBA team, the database team. LDAP, I told you, it's a database for your username and passwords, right? All those things should be required. Okay. Yeah, I got the power. Okay, so you should also interact with multiple teams. So you should be you should have a little knowledge on the other components also. When I told you DNS, right? You know DNS. Sometimes there may be issue in the network. Sometimes there may be issue in the database. So you should understand those teams and should continuously work with those teams, because WebSphere, I told you, it will be the heart of your organization. All the components of your organization will be talking to your application. So you should set up the configuration. So as part of the configuration, you may need to interact with other team person and you may need to ask specific questions, all those things. Okay. So most of the time, as a starter or like a 4 to 5 years experience, you should be up to till this first 1, 2, 3 and 4. These 4 you need. Once you go beyond 4, you need all the 7. Because when you join as an L2, right, no one will ask you to do a new installation, because you'll not even get that chance also, because there will already be L3 people who are waiting to do it. Okay. Any doubts?
If you, Gautam, if you can repeat ITIL.
Okay, so ITIL is nothing but it is a specific process which has been defined by what you say, all the people who are in the IT industry to manage a IT project. So how you manage a project? If you're managing a project, right, you'll have some set of steps, some conditions, everything, right? When I told you, right, I need to maintain SLA of 99.95%, right? So to maintain that, right, you should designate how you are going to manage your application. So if you get a small issue, right, it can't be taken as a big issue. So you should have a priority of what is your current requirement, what is your future requirement, how you are going to plan an upgrade, how are you going to plan a patching, how are you going to plan an outage. So whenever you are in a organization, right, you should continuously upgrade all the components. So if you are upgrading your OS, right, operating system, right, your WebSphere will not be available, right, that time. So what is the process to make sure that during the OS upgradation also my traffic, I should make sure that my website is still available. So all these things, right, how to maintain, how to upgrade, how to patch, how to resolve issue, all these things will be defined in ITIL process.
Okay.
So if you are suddenly, let me take an example. So your website, right, suddenly they have integrated the Instagram integration. So what you do is you can directly post something from your website to Instagram itself. Either it's a hotel project or a bank, right? Suddenly you took a, if you buy something in Amazon, right, you'll get a message that, okay, do you want to post it to Facebook or Twitter, right? That is a feature added. So whenever you something is a feature added, right, what you'll do, developer will write the Java code. He will bundle the Java code and he'll give you the Java code. He'll ask you, can you please update your Java code inside your JVM, inside your WebSphere. So what you do is you stop your WebSphere, you update that and you start it. So to do this, right, there is a mechanism called change management. So change management is a process through which you should follow that process to have minimum impact to the users. So if you simply go and stop it, right, if users are using, they'll face issue and they'll log off. So there will be a process, taking a backup, having one, there will be clustering. So there will be, I'll slowly tell you. So it's a process of handling your enterprise application with minimum effort. So if you don't have a process, right, if you don't provide set of instructions to your team starts working independently. They'll not know what to do, everything, right? Once you have an ITIL framework installed in an organization, you'll know that, okay, set of instructions and each team has their own work to do. It's like setting everyone's goals and responsibilities in an organization. It's a framework. And there will also be certifications. People do certifications and sometimes some organizations expect, because once you go beyond 6 or 7 years, right, you should manage the team instead of working on this WebSphere, right? So that time ITIL will be required. So ITIL is a must for a manager to become a manager. In any organization, if you want to become manager, you need to know the ITIL process. Because you will not be installing and working the, right, you'll be making sure your team is working efficiently. So all these things will be part of your ITIL. Okay, you have an idea now?
Yes, Gautam.
Yeah. So we'll see what is the course content. I think I mistakenly did something. Okay. Yeah. The course content which we'll be discussing. So the first session is today's session. Then tomorrow we'll cover the basics. There will be a lot of naming conventions in the WebSphere. So we'll cover all those naming conventions. What is what. Today I didn't go into deep because if I start going, then everything will be not. It will go outside of your head or top of your head. So that's why I didn't talk all the basics. Tomorrow we'll be talking all the basics. What is the version? What are the features? All these things. And in the subsequent sessions, we'll start working on the installation. Then we'll have something called profiles. There will be multiple types of, if you whenever you buy a software, there will be trial version, there will be some version, there will be upgrade version, all those versions, right? So we'll be discussing about those versions, and we'll discuss which version is required for the enterprise applications, and we'll install those. Then we install, we'll start having all these other features. So some of them can be understood by Kishore, but you may not understand everything. But this is the topics we are going to discuss as part of the course.
Gautam, we have a session tomorrow?
No, Sunday, right? No, not
Sunday?
we don't. Yeah, means in India is Sunday, so I think mostly we'll have Monday to Friday.
So Monday morning you'll take, that means Sunday night I'll have a,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, could you please send an email, and are you going to send the videos after today's video after this class?
Yes, we'll send. Yeah, I'm recording it currently, so we'll send it.
Okay, and also any slides or any material?
Yeah, so during
go
installation
like,
part, I'll be showing you installation also, and one day we'll directly take it to set up your environment, because setting up your environment is very, very important. So I require you guys to download at least around 6 to 7 GB of data to set up your environment. So I need that. So Shilpa, if you're in Hyderabad, then you can come down to Shilpa and you can collect those, because I think that internet speeds in India don't allow you to download that much huge content. So if you're out in Hyderabad, then you can take it from Shilpa. I think Kishore is in US, so it will not be a matter for him to download 6 GB. So but around 6 to 7 GB we need some softwares to be downloaded, because if you want to learn in a Linux environment, we need to download the VMware, we need to download the Linux software, and we need to download the trial versions. The trial version of WebSphere itself will be 3 GB. So all these things. So one day we'll take a session to just to install it or configure it.
Okay.